Hello. Well, my new book, Seminars and Shenanigans, is here, and I'm absolutely thrilled with it. Hamad's done a fabulous job with the formatting and the book cover design, and I've done a fabulous job writing it. And now I'd like you all to buy it and read it. So I'm just going to read you a little extract. There's a bit of language in it, so you're just going to have to bear with me. But I'm not going to be posh like I was when I read an extract of The Wine Cellar, because we're talking about Gary Stringer here. So Gary's just been told by his boss, Kevin Holloway, that he's been sent to a seminar, and he's pretty chuffed. Kevin knows Gary's wife Lisa, and he's kind of a little bit concerned that Lisa might not like it very much. He's quite rightly concerned as well. I'm going to start off this passage where they're just coming to the end of that conversation in Kevin Holloway's office. So we start with dialogue from Gary. I'll tell Lisa when I get home later. She knows how important my work is to me. There was no way I was going to give Kevin the impression that I'd have to ask permission off my wife to attend a seminar, even though I'm sure he assumed I would. But the truth was, I needed a break, and this was a perfect opportunity to recharge my batteries and have some quality time away from Lisa's nagging and Alice's tantrums. Being the only earner in our family, I felt it was the least I deserved. You can fuck right off, Gary, was Lisa's response when I got in from work. You're not leaving me here on my own with Alice for a full week. I've got no choice, babe. Looks like Kevin's already put my name down for it, and it'll look amazing on my CV. I gave her my Puss in Boots expression and tried to look sad in the hope that she'd take pity on me. Well, you can tell Kevin that you're not going because you have responsibilities at home. I can't believe he's expecting you to go when he knows you're a new father. It obviously hadn't worked. This wasn't going to be easy. Apart from which, Alice was nearly 3, so I wasn't exactly a new father anymore. She turned her back on me and reached for a wine glass, something she only did at weekends. I know it's short notice, sweetheart, but if you don't tell that knobhead you're not going, then I will. I'll ring him tomorrow. Alarmingly, she got one of the bigger glasses out and started pouring Pinot Grigio into it, which meant I was definitely in the shit. Now look what you've done. I don't drink during the week, and now I'm all stressed out. Me too, but I didn't dare say it. Instead, I got a glass for myself and picked up the wine bottle. Oh, no, you don't, Lisa shouted, snatching the bottle from me. You can look after your daughter tonight and take some responsibility for a change. Cheeky bitch. I've been working my ass off all day, Lisa, so I'm not seeing to Alice tonight. She's your child as well as mine, or have you conveniently forgotten now that you're a wannabe high flyer? She took a rather large gulp of the wine, then slammed the glass down on the worktop. I was starting to lose patience with her, knowing that this could be another week spent not speaking to each other, then me having to spend a shitload of money on flowers and gifts to make it up to her. I'd done nothing wrong, and quite frankly, I was getting pretty sick of her dramatics. 4 years we'd been together, and I'd spent far too many hours wondering if I should have kept Percy on a tighter leash. I know she's my child, that's got nothing to do with it. I'm tired and I've had a lot on today, so I'm not looking after Alice tonight, and I am going to that seminar. And with that very brave parting shot, I grabbed the wine bottle and the glass, then flounced out the door and went upstairs. It was probably the worst thing I could have done, but Lisa had driven me to it. The fact was, my day had actually been quite pleasant, the meeting with Chloe Barber being the most pleasant part of all. I sat on the bed and poured the wine, took a large gulp, then put the glass back on the bedside table. My thoughts drifted to Chloe and the way she'd purred at me as she approached me with her arms outstretched. Long blonde hair flowed down her back, and a red satin blouse tucked into tight black trousers made her look every bit as sexy as I'd imagined. Gary, thanks for coming over, she said. I would have come to you, but we're a bit short-staffed with Barbara being off. Come to my office and I'll ask Phoebe to bring us some coffees. I followed her down a corridor to a small office at the end, just about big enough to get us both in. I admit I was enamoured with her arse as I walked behind her and hoped I didn't embarrass myself in such a tight space. She offered me a chair as she elegantly sat down at the desk, then opened a notebook and started scribbling in it. I have to make my own notes. There isn't enough room in here for 3, and the meeting room's booked out all day. Then she picked up a desk phone and ordered coffee for 2. I smiled at her. We're very grateful that you can offer work experience. I've been hoping for a while we could get some work here for the students. Well, we can offer 2 places, though one is more photocopying and filing rather than admin. Would that be suitable? Absolutely, I said, clapping my hands together as I thought about the praise I'd received from Kevin Holloway for securing a contract with Greenways. A young girl pushed her way into the office with our coffees and set them on the desk. Thanks, Phoebe, Chloe said, handing me a cup. Phoebe looked at me and smiled. Can I get you anything else? She asked. I got the impression she wasn't referring to refreshments. That'll be all, thank you, Chloe answered on my behalf as I smiled and looked at my steaming cup of coffee. She left the office and closed the door softly. Phoebe's only been with us a few weeks. She's still training. She rolled her eyes, then continued. Like I said, 2 student places are available and we can probably accommodate most of term time, so it'll be up to you when you send them. I'll have some paperwork and formalities drawn up just to keep it above board, get the health and safety stuff sorted. She waved her hands about dismissively as though health and safety bored her as much as it did me. Then I'll email it all over to you in the next week or 2. I nodded and smiled again. Sounds perfect, thanks very much. I took a swig of the coffee and put the cup down on her desk before reaching for my briefcase. Moving a few papers around, trying to make myself look important and hopefully impress her, I dug underneath the clutter in order to find one of the chewed biros, only to accidentally move the ridiculous teddy bear diary just enough that it presented itself in full view of my new associate. Looks interesting, she grinned before picking up a cup and shielding her expression with it, her eyes twinkling in my direction. I pushed it back underneath the papers and closed the case quickly. Here's my card, I said, handing it over, having probably turned a shade of crimson. It's got all my details on. Does it have your private number on, just in case I need to speak to you out of hours? My first thought was, why would she want that? But my brain had obviously shut down at this point as I replied, no, that's my works number. I'll write my private one on the back. So there it was, my mobile number left with a very sexy blonde, boasting what looked to me like a size 10 figure with a pert arse and hands that would wrap very nicely around my... I'll be sleeping in the spare room tonight, Lisa cut into my thoughts quite abruptly, and I only hoped she hadn't seen the bulge in my trousers that was most definitely not meant for her. Suit yourself, I replied, grateful that I'd have our king size to myself. Whew, things really were taking a nosedive where our marriage was concerned, and I had to ask myself how much longer it could continue. Before Alice was born, we'd agreed that Lisa would be a full-time mum, and I'd therefore be the breadwinner, though she had said she might like to go back to work for part-time if anything came available at the college. However, once Alice arrived, Lisa announced that she'd made the right decision, as in her words, it would be far too irresponsible to leave Alice with a childminder, even though I reminded her several times that mothers went back to work all the time these days. But I admired her for the decision she'd made and went along with it, knowing our daughter would be nurtured and brought up properly with 2 doting parents. She'd become a bit obsessive with the nurturing bit, as her ideas of being a full-time mum seemed to leave very little time to spend with me. I let it go, however, much as it irritated me. The problem we had now, though, was that I'd started to resent this responsible father and husband lifestyle, and I knew I had to either have a long chat to my wife about where it was all going, or put my foot down and tell her I was the man of the house. Then again, my dad thought he was the man of the house until my mum chucked him out, so maybe that wouldn't be one of my better ideas. Despite everything, I wasn't going to let Lisa stop me going to that seminar, and I made up my mind to tell Kevin the following day that I'd definitely be attending, and by no means should he answer any calls from my wife. Yes, I thought, put your foot down. And with that determination, I topped up my wine glass and reached for the remote.